I'll tell you how that train got broken. I wonder if anybody here ever heard the name of James White. You've heard that name? Has anybody heard the name of Ellen White? Yeah. And you know they lived in a whole bunch of places. Well, they lived in Rochester, New York. But they lived back in the time when to get to one place or another, they went by horses back. And trains started coming in. And they traveled so far and so much that they took the train and they went to Michigan. They had a speaking appointment in one of the churches, and they went and they talked and everybody liked them, and they left. And they went to some friend's house. And they stayed all night with their friends. And they had another appointment the next day. And so they were getting things ready to go. And James would say to the folks that they were staying with, and with Ellen, you know, I don't feel right about this trip tonight. But if we didn't have an appointment, I just wouldn't even go. And Ellen would say, but James, we do have an appointment. Well, you know, they never went anywhere without taking trunks of books and papers and everything to give away. And so a man by the name of Loughborough, have you ever heard of Mr. Loughborough? He helped them. Now the train wasn't to leave until almost midnight. I bet all you kids are asleep at midnight. Yeah, time to go to sleep then. But they had to go down to the train. But before they left, they knelt and had prayer. And they prayed that they would have a safe trip, and they would get there, and the people would be able to enjoy the books and learn a little bit more about going home with Jesus. Well, they went down, and Elder Loughborough went with them, and they took their trunk, and they put it in the baggage car. But Ellen's habit was, when she'd go in and sit down, she'd take off her hat, and she'd take the things that she was carrying, and she'd put them in the seat beside her. And they got in and went and sat down. Well, they almost sat down, and Ellen said, no, we can't stay here. No, we can't be in this car. And James said, Ellen? She said, no, we can't stay in this car. So they picked up all their stuff, and they went a few cars back. Now the car they were going to stay in was one they could kind of sleep a little bit in. It had a back to it, and you could get a little comfortable. But the car they went in was just a seat that didn't have any back, wasn't comfortable at all, and they had to travel all night long like that. So Ella took her bonnet off, and she put all her stuff, and she got as comfortable as she could. And they started off just about midnight. The train chuck, 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 and it went a little faster and a little faster. And all of a sudden, they heard some noise. And they looked out the window, and they saw people laying all over the ground, and they saw part of the train all messed up on the ground. And they said, what happened? And they looked a little further and decided to get out and go. And they saw that the front part of the train had a wreck. You see, this part of the train wrecked, and I'll let you look at it a little bit. The engine wrecked, and the car that they were in wrecked. And several people died in that wreck. And others were hurt and went to the hospital. The engineer died that was in it. And they said, what happened? Well, do you have any idea what caused that wreck? You know? What?
That they went too fast. Boom!
They may have, but what really happened was a great big ox decided to go to sleep on the track that night. And they hit the ox. and the ox made it wreck. When you look here, you'll be able to see the ox underneath the engine. But wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me finish telling the story. Shame on me for saying that. Now, as you see here, the car that they were in was all beat up. But look here, here's a baggage car. And it didn't get hurt at all. And they got their stuff. Well, it got a little hurt, but not bad. Everything was okay in their baggage car. But back here, a whole bunch of ways, is the car they were riding in. And it wasn't even connected. And they didn't even feel the wreck, they just heard it. Well, it was way late in the night, so James had to carry Ellen and take her up to the road because it was all muddy and marshy and, she wasn't well anyhow. So he carried her to the road and they walked down and had a place to stay that night. And James went the next morning. Now children, the ones behind you can't see. So how about you sitting down so the people behind you can see? Thank you. Thank you. You want to sit down, sweetie, so the other people can see? I don't think we're going to be successful there. Anyhow, the car back in the back wasn't even connected. And when James went the next morning, he said, "How's come this car's back here? Did you move it?" "We haven't touched a thing." I don't know why, but that's funny. And then there's a kind of a little porch on the front of the train, and the piece of metal that put the train together, it had a piece on it that would connect to the back and connect to the front of the other one. It was laying on the porch, and it wasn't even a mess. It was just laying real neatly. And they said, "Did you pick that up and put it there?" They said, "Mister, this is a train wreck, and there's got to be an investigation. We haven't touched a thing." How did that get there? Well, they talked about it a little while, when they went back and talked to Ellen. Ellen said, you know what she said, how it got there? She said, "My God, that can shut the lion's mouth, can unhook a train, and he can put it right there." What do you think about that? Do you think God did that? He unhooked the train and let it stop quite a ways back, and nobody was hurt. He told Ellen, "Get away from here. Go sit in another train." Don't you think that he was pretty special to them to do that? All right. I don't know how to do this to get the children to be able to see it.